Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled, your guide to understanding the future, today. It's amazing how quickly things are moving. Imagine a future where aging itself is being, well, kind of rewritten.
Hmm.
What felt like science fiction just, I don't know, a few years ago, extending not just how long we live, but how long we live well, it's actually becoming tangible, almost astonishingly real.
It really is.
So this week, we're diving deep into the Immortality update. This week in longevity news, we'll be looking at the breakthroughs our research team flagged from July 2nd to 9th, 2025.
And it's more than just, adding years to the calendar, isn't it? The real philosophy driving this, the core theme, is about enhancing health span.
Right, healthspan.
Living well, free from chronic diseases, disability
Yep.
for as long as humanly possible. That's really the thread connecting all the insights and, frankly, surprising facts we're going to unpack,
Okay.
all pulled from the sources our dedicated research team compiled.
Absolutely. And our mission today is to really distill the most important stuff from those sources, help you get quickly well informed on what these breakthroughs mean and, the implications for your future.
Yeah.
Because our research team found progress is accelerating on like three main fronts, right? There are these new combination therapies proving really effective.
Uh-huh.
Then there's groundbreaking cellular engineering, literally re-engineering our own bodies.
Mind-blowing stuff.
And powerful tech tools like AI and these advanced biomarkers. They're not separate things either. They're all starting to converge. It's redefining what we thought was possible.
That convergence is key. It's fascinating how these seemingly different fields are starting to intertwine. We're definitely moving past that search for, like, one single silver bullet.
Yeah, the magic pill idea.
Exactly. We're moving towards more sophisticated multimodal approaches.
Okay, so that sounds like a perfect place to start. Our first major area, breakthrough combination therapies. For ages, it felt like the search was for one drug, one target. But the latest findings seem to show combining therapies is just better, more effective, like maybe building layers of defense. Or maybe a symphony analogy works, multiple instruments making a richer sound.
That's a great analogy, actually. And the most significant discovery our research team pointed out here involves a specific combo, rapamycin and trametinib.
Okay.
Now, this is preclinical work in mice, but the results were impressive. A 27 to 29% median lifespan extension.
27 to 29%. Wow. How does that compare to them individually?
Well, rapamycin on its own gave maybe 16, 17%, trametinib around 7, 10%. So the synergy, it's really clear. It's much more than just additive.
And it's not just about the numbers, the lifespan, right? The
Yeah.
research also mentioned functional benefit.
Crucially, yes. This combination significantly reduced chronic inflammation. Think brain, kidneys, spleen, muscle tissues.
All vital.
Exactly. And at the same time, it decreased the development of liver and spleen tumors. So, yeah, it absolutely reinforces that point about not just living longer, but living better, reducing that age-related decline in pathology.
Okay, that sounds promising. But the catch is usually how long it takes to get from mice to humans, right?
Well, here's the really exciting part our team flagged. Both of these compounds, rapamycin and trametinib, they're already FDA approved
Oh, really? For what?
for cancer treatment. So this potentially means a much faster track for translation into human trials. You potentially bypass some of those really early, risky, and expensive development hurdles.
So we're leveraging existing approved drugs in smarter ways.
Precisely. Using them for these sophisticated multimodal approaches to extend healthy, functional life instead of needing to start completely from scratch every time.
So if you're listening, the big takeaway here is that the future of extending your functional life probably isn't one magic pill. It's more likely to be smart synergistic strategies, maybe tailored combinations targeting different aspects of aging all at once.
That seems to be the direction things are strongly heading.
Okay, so from combining existing therapies, let's zoom right down to the cellular level. Re-engineering our own bodies through precision cellular engineering. You said earlier, this field is exploding.
Absolutely exploding. It's all about leveraging our own biology in new ways. And the information compiled by our research team really highlights a couple of incredible advancements here. First one, potentially a game changer for Alzheimer's, repurposing CAR-RT cells.
CAR-RT, okay, I've heard of that. That's a cancer thing, right? Where they engineer your immune cells.
Exactly. Chimeric antigen receptor technology. It's been revolutionary for certain cancers, turning T cells into, like, guided missiles against tumor cells. But now, The thinking is adapting it for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's.
Wow. Okay, so how does that work for Alzheimer's? What are they designed to do differently in the brain?
Well, that's the profound shift. Instead of being designed to kill cells, these engineered immune cells are designed to heal, not kill. That's the phrase the research used.
Heal, not kill.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They can be engineered to recognize those pathological proteins we associate with Alzheimer's. Amyloid beta and tau plaques and tangles.
Uh-huh.
And then instead of attacking, they deliver therapeutic payloads, things like anti-inflammatory agents or neurotrophic factors that support neuron health, right there at the site of the problem. The goal is to resolve the pathology and actually help the brain environment recover.
That sounds incredibly targeted. Is this happening now?
It's still preclinical, so we're talking in vitro, in lab dishes, and in mouse models. But the long-term promise is immense. A living cellular therapy that can adapt and respond within the brain. It's a really remarkable example of taking a powerful technology and repurposing it, shifting from attack to repair.
It really is. Imagine your own cells reprogrammed to be like tiny, intelligent repair crews running around your brain.
It's a powerful concept.
And speaking of repair and regeneration, the research team also flagged some exciting news about the liver, something moving into human trials.
Yes, exactly. A novel small molecule inhibitor called HRX-215. It has officially entered phase IBIA human clinical trials.
HRX-215. Okay, and how does that one work?
This drug essentially works by releasing the brakes on the liver's own natural ability to regenerate.
The liver can regenerate, right? But this helps it.
It does. Specifically, it inhibits a protein called MKK4. Think of MKK4 as normally keeping that regenerative capacity in check. This drug inhibits it, allowing the liver to repair itself more robustly.
And the goal there?
The primary goal in these trials is to stimulate rapid liver regeneration, to increase what they call the future liver remnant, basically.
Right.
The amount of healthy liver left in patients who need part of their liver removed, often because of colorectal cancer metastases that have spread there.
So it could make surgery possible for people who previously didn't have enough healthy liver remaining.
Precisely. It could make potentially life-saving surgery an option for a much larger group of patients who were previously considered inoperable. The preclinical studies were really compelling. The research team noted one study where it actually allowed pigs to survive liver resections that would normally be lethal.
Wow. That's a huge step. Taking regenerative science from the lab bench right into patient care. Actively boosting the body's repair systems.
It's a critical transition. And beyond those two big examples, the research also touched on other related efforts. There's early stage work using induced pluripotent stem cells.
iPSCs?
Right, iPSCs, derived from centenarians, people who live over 100, to try and figure out what makes them so resilient. What are the longevity factors?
Learning from the superagers.
Exactly. And there are also planned human trials for something called ER100, which is another cellular reprogramming therapy, this one aimed at restoring vision in certain optic neuropathies.
Okay, so the bigger picture here for you, our listener, is imagining a future where maybe your own cells, or perhaps just a simple pill, could be programmed or activated to repair and regenerate vital organs, keeping them functionally younger for longer.
It's a fundamental leap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Moving beyond just managing symptoms to actually restoring the body's inherent function.
Definitely. But these breakthroughs, these direct interventions, they don't happen in a vacuum. The tools we use to find them and measure their effects are also evolving rapidly, which brings us to our third big area, accelerating the future with AI, biomarkers, and wearables.
Yeah, the enabling technologies. And what's fascinating here is how AI is becoming this incredibly powerful engine for discovery. The research highlighted platforms like FaunaBrain.
FaunaBrain, okay.
They're dramatically speeding up drug discovery. But it's how they're doing it that's really unique. They're not just crunching human disease data.
What are they looking at then?
They're leveraging comparative genomics from what they call extremophile animals.
Extremophiles, like animals that live in crazy conditions.
Exactly. Think hibernating ground squirrels, spiny mice that can regenerate tissue incredibly well, elephant seals that handle low oxygen, these incredibly resilient species.
Okay.
The AI identifies protective traits that have evolved in these animals, traits conserved across species, and then maps them onto human disease pathways.
So learning from nature's survival experts to find clues for human health.
Precisely. And it's fast and cheap. Our research team noted it can evaluate a potential drug target in minutes for just pennies. This approach has already led to some significant collaborations, including one with a major pharmaceutical company looking for new obesity treatments.
That's incredible. So instead of only studying what goes wrong in disease, AI is helping us learn from what goes right in nature's most resilient creatures. It kind of
Well,
flips the script on drug discovery.
it really does. Learning from health, not just disease.
Okay, so AI helps find the interventions, but then how do we know if they're actually working on improving health span, not just, tweaking one biomarker? That seems to be where the next piece comes in, this IC clock.
Ah, yes, the IC clock. This is a new epigenetic biomarker, a blood test, developed by a big international consortium.
Epigenetic clock that measures biological age based on changes to DNA, right? But how is this one different?
The key difference, and this is important, is what it's trained to measure. Unlike earlier clocks that might predict chronological age or just mortality risk, the IC clock was specifically designed and trained to measure intrinsic capacity.
Intrinsic capacity. That sounds familiar. WHO concept.
Exactly. World Health Organization. It's a comprehensive measure of functional health. It covers mobility, cognition, vitality, vision, hearing, basically how well your body and mind are actually functioning in the real world day to day.
And does it work? Is it accurate?
According to the research findings, yes. It significantly outperforms all the previous epigenetic clocks in predicting all-cause mortality. And, crucially, it strongly correlates with real-world functional measures, like lung function tests and how fast someone can walk.
That sounds, well, monumental, actually.
It really could be.
Okay.
The IC clock offers a way to assess functional decline that's scalable. It's a blood test and non-invasive. And here's the kicker. It might provide the first validated surrogate endpoint for aging as a condition,
A surrogate endpoint, meaning?
meaning a measurable outcome that regulators like the FDA could accept in clinical trials as standing in for, waiting decades to see if people actually live longer and healthier.
Yeah.
If aging itself can be targeted as a condition with a measurable endpoint.
That could unlock huge amounts of R&D funding, billions, potentially. It creates a clear path for developing and approving drugs specifically designed to extend health span.
Exactly. Imagine having a reliable blood test that gives you a clear picture of your biological age and functional health.
That's powerful. And then tying it all together, there's the role of wearables.
Right, wearables for real-time health insights. We're seeing wearable tech evolve way beyond just counting steps. We're talking specialized sensors, often with AI built right in, giving real-time actionable health data.
Give me examples.
The research team found a really interesting one. A new AI-enabled piezoelectric wearable sensor, specifically for monitoring joint health.
Joint health. How does that work?
It can accurately track biomechanical things like torque and load on a joint in real time. Think about applications in physical therapy, monitoring recovery after surgery, or even preventing injuries in athletes or workers.
So very specific, very targeted data.
Yeah, and this points towards a future where you might use a whole suite of specialized wearables. Together, they could create a kind of digital twin of your body.
A digital twin.
Yeah, a continuous, multi-dimensional assessment of your functional health span, constantly updated. This would allow for truly personalized, proactive interventions. Imagine AI analyzing that stream of data and giving you insights to guide your health choices, moment by moment, optimizing your own unique health journey.
Wow. That's quite a vision. A closed loop of measurement, insight, and action. Okay. Pausing here for a moment. If you're finding this insightful on YouTube, please do take a second to like this video, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and definitely hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future updates.
And if you're listening on a podcast service, maybe Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a rating and review for Tomorrow Unveiled. It genuinely helps new listeners discover the conversation.
Absolutely. Okay, so these breakthroughs, combination therapies, cellular engineering, AI, biomarkers, wearables, they're incredibly exciting. Thrilling, even.
They really are.
But with this kind of power comes, well, immense responsibility. And some pretty complex ethical questions. Our research team didn't shy away from that. They looked deep into the ethical and practical considerations, too.
Which is absolutely critical. We have to think about this stuff. First, let's circle back to the CAR-T therapy for Alzheimer's. Even though the intent is restorative, introducing engineered immune cells into the brain isn't risk-free.
Right. What kind of risks?
Well, there's the potential for things like cytokine release syndrome, basically, a massive immune overreaction and neurotoxicity, side effects seen in cancer CAR-T, and honestly, the long-term consequences in the brain, we just don't know yet.
And then there's the consent issue, which seems particularly tricky with Alzheimer's.
Profoundly tricky. Patients may lack the cognitive capacity for truly informed consent for something this experimental, potentially irreversible. That puts an enormous burden on families and caregivers.
Plus, you mentioned CAR-T is expensive for cancer if it's similarly priced for Alzheimer's.
You immediately run into issues of accessibility and equity. Does this become a treatment only for the wealthy, creating a sort of two-tiered system for brain health? It's a major concern.
And there was another specific point the research raised about halting disease but not restoring function.
Yeah, the locked-in problem.
Yeah.
What if the therapy stops the progression of the pathology, the amyloid and tau, but it doesn't bring back the cognitive function that's already lost? You could potentially trap someone in a state of severe dementia for longer, extending suffering. That's a really difficult ethical consideration.
Definitely heavy stuff to consider. Okay, what about the ethics around the AI, like FaunaBrain using animal and human genomic data?
Several layers there too. First, the obvious one, data privacy and security. Genomic data is incredibly personal. Breaches or re-identification are significant risks. Robust security is non-negotiable.
Makes sense.
Then there's algorithmic bias. AI is only as good as its data. If the genomic data sets, both human and animal, lack diversity, the drug targets identified might be less effective or maybe even harmful for underrepresented groups. This could actually worsen existing health disparities.
So the AI could inherit our societal biases.
It could. And there's the black box issue with AI. Sometimes it's hard to understand why it reached a certain conclusion. That makes regulatory oversight and building public trust more challenging.
And the research mentioned something about interspecies justice. That sounds novel.
It's a fascinating point. If a breakthrough drug is developed based on the unique genetics of, say, that spiny mouse or the hibernating squirrel, do we owe anything back? What about benefit sharing for the communities or ecosystems where these animals live? It opens up new ethical territory regarding the ownership of a species' genetic information.
That's a complex one. Okay, finally, the IC clock, the biomarker for functional aging. What are the ethical challenges there?
Well, because it's potentially so accurate at predicting functional decline, there's a real risk of misuse. Think about life insurance companies, long-term care insurers, maybe even employers. Could they use this score to discriminate?
Like denying coverage or jobs based on a predicted decline.
Exactly. And current laws, like GNA in the U.S., often don't explicitly cover discrimination based on functional aging predictions in areas like long-term care or life insurance.
And on a personal level, knowing your biological age.
That knowledge could be a heavy burden for some people. It could lead to significant anxiety, maybe fatalism or even depression. My clock says I'm aging fast, so what's the point? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
And there's another layer. Epigenetics, which these clocks measure, are heavily influenced by socioeconomic factors. Things like poverty, chronic stress, exposure to pollution. They leave marks on our epigenome.
So the clock might reflect social inequalities.
It might inadvertently codify them. There's a risk of reinforcing existing inequities, potentially even blaming the victim for epigenetic changes caused by systemic problems.
Which leads back to the need for regulation.
The research strongly suggests that yes, because the IC clock seems clinically valid, it's a powerful tool, and powerful tools need safeguards. There's likely a need for new, specific legislation to prevent its misuse in underwriting or employment, to avoid creating what the research called a molecular-level caste system.
A molecular-level caste system. That's a chilling phrase. It really highlights the stakes.
It certainly does. The science is moving fast, and the ethical frameworks need to keep pace.
Okay, so wrapping up this week's Immortality update on Tomorrow Unveiled, we've journeyed through the promise of these breakthrough combination therapies, the really revolutionary potential of precision cellular engineering for devastating diseases like Alzheimer's and liver failure.
Yeah, incredible potential there.
And the sheer accelerating power of AI, these super precise new biomarkers like the IC clock and smarter than ever wearables.
And the key thing, as our research team really emphasized, is that these aren't just separate advances happening in parallel. They're converging. They're the foundational pieces of a whole new paradigm.
Right. A whole paradigm for what? What does it look like?
It looks like a personalized closed-loop system for proactive health management.
Okay, break that down. Closed-loop system.
Think of it as a cycle. First, AI-driven identification, figuring out your unique risks, your specific biological targets based on your data.
Identify.
Then, highly targeted interventions, maybe those combination therapies, maybe a cellular treatment tailored just for you.
Intervene.
Followed by continuous measurement, using wearables, using biomarkers like the IC clock to constantly track how you're responding, how your functional health is doing.
Measure.
And finally, real-time refinement, using AI again to analyze those measurements and adjust the interventions, optimize your path, constantly fine-tuning your health span trajectory.
Identify, intervene, measure, refine. A continuous loop.
Exactly. It signifies this profound shift in healthcare, moving away from being reactive, only treating sickness when it happens, and episodic.
To being proactive, continuous, deeply personalized, and perpetually adaptive. Always learning, always adjusting.
That's the vision. And it raises a really fascinating, maybe even provocative question for all of us, doesn't it? In this future, where functional health, our intrinsic capacity, can potentially be maintained for much, much longer, what will old age even mean anymore?
That is a big question to ponder. What does old age mean if functional decline isn't inevitable in the same way? We genuinely love hearing your thoughts on this. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about this immortality update and, yeah, what old age might mean in the future you envision.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your perspective.
Thank you so much for joining us on Tomorrow Unveiled. Keep exploring the future with us.